And I think considering the MC to the school and that, I will explain more like I work and my relationship with the process of working. Well, in the 70s, I draw these 3 circles. It's a kind of diagram. And that diagram becomes a kind of mantra for me to see that art is not independent. Art is related to social science, sociology, anthropology, with other disciplines, and I consider the work is interdisciplinary by the relationship with other disciplines like social science and communication systems. The communication system is how we provide the project to do, the mediums where we choose. Media landscape is a metaphor to say that we have a format in art that is portrait, landscape, still life. And I take the idea of the landscape taking to the format that normally painting. I think if the window we could see the landscape or we could see the outside world, the TV you see another world, and this world is a kind of another reality. From that is the work. It was to do a series of works. Then the first thing was in Addison Gallery of American Art, and at that time, the project Media Landscape it was initiated. I think Personal Public it was a project they show at the kitchen. As I said, the 2 landscapes related to this media landscape and a kind of other landscape through the window. And I think in the way how we represent it, I realized that pretty much the television, it was not objective. Even it tries, but not objective. I think the reality, it was very much opinionated. Through that, other projects like Confrontation, a juxtaposition of television programs on the reality of the street, 14th Street, 42nd Street, Canal Street, confront with television of the period. And the audience was in the middle between this kind of virtual reality and real reality. Even I think they both are real. From Spain, Latin America was a continent that people thinking because the same language and that people know, and reality is Spain, they don't know Latin America. I produced work after that. One of that was the last 10 minutes, that recording the last 10 minutes of television in Argentina, Brazil, the United States, where at that time, and that changed a lot, television, it has a beginning of the end. Now television is 24 hours. At the end of the programs, it was national anthems, flags, priests, religion. I think it was very much in every country, showing that the last minutes of TV is a kind of subliminal information that people receive, and it was before to go to sleep, that they can maybe tired during the day, you receive that and you get a very, very, very penetrated and subliminal information. During that period too, I analyzed photography and the image through a project and connected to other works about looking for this kind of objectivity, and this project declared subjectivity as a way of working and accepting a certain reality. I start with Life magazine. I think everybody probably, even is pretty much 50s, 60s, and 70s, an important magazine. Life, he created the best of life. He selected photographs of very good photographers and make this book. And that book, I think for me was interesting to see that it record a lot of images from different parts of the world, and also it was a companion with text that in certain way it would be associated with what we could call the American dream. It has to do with the American way of life, the Marshall Plan, and I sent to 250 people around the world asking for a caption, asking and reading about this image. Of course, some people knowing, maybe having some information, people know, but for me was the way of confronting the image with a different kind of perception and information. The photographs are, as I say, selection for the book, and that's the final book result of the project. Every photograph of the 50 photographs, it was reprinted with the 5 readings of people, handwriting, type machine, how they send me, and they send by mail. Actually, this would be strange these days because everything is in the internet. But the difference is when I do by mail, it takes me near a year since I send the letter. The photographs, in a way, it was a very different kind of spectrum of image. In a way, reinforced my idea of subjectivity, and to say that image, they are in a way subjective. There is no such thing like objectivity. The paradox, it was at the end of the book, I put the original captions were Life magazine printed. Like that, in a way, the 250 people, they participate in the book, they understand the project when they receive a copy of the book. When they see their own opinion confronted with other 4 and the other photograph confronted with other, and that it takes time to do it. In a way, installation, it was showing as a museum of image, like a kind of geology or biology museum where you have vitrines with coins, fossils, elements that are precious. I would feel like the image that was presented there also was presented the whole process of the envelopes that in a way show the process without explaining. I mean, on the other side, it was a video on the same program. It's called About TV, that it was similar situation with image, with television programs, asking people what they think about. That it was a reflection, interrogation about the mass media and the image making. A little bit later, I started working interventions in the public space. I developed a course on art in public space. During these near 40 years I've been teaching there, it was my intention to see how artists could work in the public space, following the idea of the monument and following the idea of the anti-monument, that I think is a continuation of the monument, but with another kind of formal presentation. This project, it was with the question, what are you looking at? It was projections in the eyes. The view obviously was about advertising, about the context where the billboard and what you expecting. The thing that, in a way, it was interesting because it was 3 months. And of course, when you show things in public space, you don't have much feedback. I mean, when you show in a gallery in a museum, it's criticism, it's magazines, it's reviews, but of course, the risk of the working in public space is interesting. In 1999, a collection of books, electronic books, with text and photography. And I decided to propose to artists to do the interface for a project they have, moving image, sound, and I start this collection of, it's called Anarchy, that has already been for years doing. Media architecture installation is an electronic book where a lot of these projects and the ones I got to talk, it was registered in a way that make more possibility to understand the work. For example, now, using a PowerPoint and projecting image is difficult to get the work. I think the perception of the space, the sound, I mean, it's difficult to see only with one flat image. I think it's the difficulty of transmission. Like that, I understand the interest of her to do this kind of book where it was more possible to do other information. Part of this electronic book, it has a series of installations that I call media architecture installation because all start with architecture, a lot of power decisions is made in a boardroom. But this was a kind of a strange or specific boardroom. It was a boardroom that superimposed media, religion, and economy. It was shown in many places and finished at the National Gallery in Canada. how the situation with religion in the United States, especially with televangelists, it was increasing. And that the boardroom has people, the spectrum of religions in the United States. It was from Khomeini to the Pope, a lot of the Reverend Ike, Moon. I think the different religious leaders with a monitor in the mouth, because it was basically the speeches, each one. The photograph come up from the media. I take it from the media. I enlarge and I color by hand like a religious image. It was a colored portrait, and it has the light of the portrait, the traditional portrait in a boardroom. Monitor the videos, it has overlapping some words, the nerve, the neurologic element of the image. I think the boardroom, the lighting of the frames, the blue of the monitors, and the other light on the table created a dramatic situation to introduce to that discussion of what the boardroom were the specifics of the, as I say, media, religion, and economics. And I say economics because I was very strong links between the three. Part of the media architecture installation is the stadium. I think the stadiums are in all the cities, middle large cities. They have the museum for high culture and the stadium for popular culture. I think it's in the stadium you have not only sports, you have conventions, meetings, you have political meetings, religious meetings, all kind of activities, even commercial. And in a way it's taken from the Roman panem and circenses, bread and circus, where already in the circus, the Roman circus, of the amphitheater, of the arena, kind of distraction or control to the masses. I think the stadium is constructed with a large elliptical construction. The soundtrack is half an hour repeating of sound in the stadiums with concerts of music, Janis Joplin or the Gaulle speech, symbols, architecture, audience, and in every place it's presented is adjusted to the context. When it was in Germany, it was emphasized the 30s, used the stadium. By Hitler, the stadium was a tool of propaganda where Leni Riefenstahl do the project, and where you could see that it was pretty much a situation. You know, in every country it always has an edge that I like it to explore to see it. Inside the circle you have a projection of an audience that are controlled, and it's a circular projection in sand, on top of the sand. As I said before, needs to have a perception of the scale, the light, and the sound that is very difficult to play with someone. A little later I start to be interested on the system of art. I start to see that the art, it has, my view, what it could be the production of art. The production of art that is more involved, the artist, and you know, some people close to the production. And the system of art is the people between the artist and the audience. The galleries, the museum, the docents, the media, the critics, the collector, etc. And my curiosity, because I started the project by the curiosity to know more. Chapters about people institution between artists and the audience, to the microphone, to the television, all the newspapers in the city, from the right to the left, during 1 month before the show. You could step on the media, conduct this media carpet to the television, where you have a lot of politicians, including the ones of the local situation, where you don't hear the voice there. The voice comes from the ceiling, and they start very clear speeches of each politician that overlap, till it is totally deconstructed, where it's impossible to see what the speech is about. I mean, sometimes this kind of bubble sound of the sound of the speech. Going back to the public space, It's a project connected to the city, and I think context is very important for me, and I use not only the word site-specific, that very much the 70s, people thinking, I think a lot of the sculpture problematics of the 60s, the minimal art and work that it was connected with that, it was developed with the concept of site-specific, representing, of course, a status quo, economics, entertainment, or political. The project, the limousine, and it was this limousine transformed with projections from inside to the windows and move around the city, move to United Nations, Wall Street, and to Broadway in the spectacle, the theater, cinema. And during 3 months, it was a kind of constant moving. This is, for example, when I say public work, a lot of people see that. I mean, feedback I have with the time, somebody say, yeah, I remember I saw the work. I think I want to put the paradox about public space, more large public, possible, but less feedback, or not orchestrated. The image was image from the media with superimposing some words. I think in a way, like the boardroom, seeing the inside of the limousine like a private, secret, private. I think you question what happened inside there, because it's the black windows. You don't know. Like in the boardroom, you don't know the decisions. I think this kind of, what is behind that image? I think something interests me on that, also how the image is constructed, what is represented, and what sustained. The farm room is another project of part of the media architecture installation, and it came up from a situation that I was censored a work made for Spanish television. After I worked 2 years, they never broadcast. And it was a work, the Spanish television, where I grown up. The result, they never broadcast. Like that, it's difficult to confront the situation. I was not living in Spain. I don't want to polemize and to create. And also, it's not my style. Where the first project I put is the Televisión Española Primer Intento, first attempt. The farm room include using internet more. When I started, 450 cases of censor project by musicians, writers, artists, from painting and sculpture to digital media. And in a way, it was presented in Chicago, the public library, to see by internet that you need to go only at that time it was a university, before it was the military, then the university, and then internet cafes. The people get and see some of that. And with the time, people could see the project at home. The project is still on, it's the fileroom.org, and it's still alive, and people could including cases of censorship. When I was in Korea, more than 30 cases of censorship were included. I encourage here in Philippines, it's been cases of censorship, please to include. And I like it when the person include the case speaking in the first person, because it's very different to talk in first person and third person. Most of the information there, somebody they say, well, I think they're feeling the same frustration I had to do a work and that belongs to the public sphere, it never arrived to there. I mean, geographical grounds of censorship, that it could be political reasons, religious, moral, economic, etc., and different media, I say. In 95, I declared certainly intention, different media, different context. On translation is a series of work exploring issues of transcription, interpretation and translation, from language to code, from silence to technology, from subjectivity to objectivity, from agreements to wars, from private to public, from semiology to cryptography, the role of translators as a visible, invisible eye. I think, like in the 3 circles in the beginning, this was a kind of declaration to give a parameter of the works I was working, and contextual translation. What happened here is not the same that happened in Sao Paulo, and what happened in Sao Paulo not the same that happened in New York or or New York, what happened in Morocco. But that these incidents and reflection of the context makes that I start to do the games. It was in Atlanta during the Olympic Games. The Olympic Games, like the fairs and this kind of national events, Olympics or football championship, is always a translated event. It's a lot of flags, national anthems, celebrations, etc. And I feel the cultural program of the Atlanta, I put the translator, the simultaneous translation, in the middle of the gallery, giving a kind of homage, because the simultaneous translators are always in a hidden situation, in a cabin, nobody sees it. It's like a kind of, you receive my headphones, the translation, but the person is totally anonymous, and nobody give a delegation on the Olympics, 3 people. But that I give the sound of this translator on Vietnamese, and if the people wanted to see in English, they need to have headphones. I think it was kind of ironical, because for an English-speaking country like the United States, are not habituated to listen to their own language in headphones, when we are habituated all the time. And I think it was a kind of giving a distance about what it means, a close distance of what it means, the idea of translation. Okay, I think La Mesa de Negociación, it was another work, more three-dimensional work. They used a table with 12 elements built with a very specific craft of the way of the style of the wood, and a hybrid table with different pieces. Every piece has a light box with a part of the wall, and the legs cut with juxtaposed, balance the legs with the different books. The table, it was about communication, systems of communication in different parts of the world. It included corporate world, incorporate all the different maps where you reconstruct the technological and inventive ways of the communication system. I think in a way it has this thing also that they emphasize the economical part of what all these connections are in a global world. I think it's a world about globalization. A lot of the books, they talk about the issues where the maps are. Like that, the table is a filter of translation between the map and the books. More like a single image proposing a kind of performance is the bank, where in a way you say how long it will take for $1,000 to disappear through a series of forex trades. If you go with $1,000 bank to bank, it will in a moment then the money disappears. That is a kind of economical translation, and I think in a way that this was emphasized for a show the young people in New York organized in a bank, and this was my contribution. Going back to public space, and I need to explain that I think we are working in 2 kinds of spaces. Protected spaces like gallery, museum, public institutions, cultural institutions, public spaces that are the street, television, internet, where the audience encounter the work, not go to see it. Somebody goes to a gallery, they know they go to see an exhibition. Or if they go to a museum, they go to see a collection. In the street, on television, internet is not the place where normally you see it. You need to or zapping on the programs, or navigated on that. And I think that is what this distance makes that certain kind of works, they need to be very aware where is the place where it's going to be received or where it's going to be located. Conmemorações Urbanas, it takes 4 years for a project, and it was an invitation to work in Sao Paulo, in a zone of Sao Paulo, Zona Leste, where a curator, Nelson Brissac, invited 15 artists and architects to work in the public space during a period of time. I work with a local architect to individualize 11 sites in that zone where they have projects. It's been changing the master plan in the city of Sao Paulo. That's places that were changing the use and function by political or economical reasons. Master plans in the city, they're supposed to be a plan to be followed and to be functional. But my experience that some places in Latin America, Brazil, Argentina, a master plan it don't mean much sometimes. I mean, if it's a governor or a mayor has some interest, not to celebrate, but to commemorate a disaster, a human disaster, and to put in the places where it's supposed to be. It was a kind of remembrance or signalization of a project that's supposed to be and never happened. The project was very different, but it was all created in the different communities hope of change, improve certain conditions in that area, and each one, it has the name of the prefeito, it means the mayor, or the governor of the city that it was involved in the governor to celebrate or to open a space, you know? It has like a kind of, in a way, a remake of that. Part of the translation series, I developed a sentence, warning perception require involvement, for me addressed to the audience in a way, and myself as an audience, to say that in order to perceive things, we need to get involved. And that it could be in countries change and the words maybe are transformed. For example, in Spanish, the translation is being in instant involvement, participation. I'm not so sure. I think involvement is more strong. But anyway, that is being repeating the public space in different countries, in different situations, in different media, inserting the newspapers, involved in the architecture, working with the architects. Even is temporary, but you know, to see how where is connected with an exhibition, where this was Dortmund, or maybe like here in Uruguay is the center of the Spanish Center in Uruguay that actually do a very good activity. But I decided to do outside, inside. It was directed to the people in the street, but also the people working in the Español in Montevideo. But that work, it has a continuation. The Spanish Pavilion in Venice, 2005, he started with this banner, and it was dedicated to the Pavilion of Translation. All the works that was there, he was addressing. And one of the places he was addressing was Giardini, the place where the Biennale happened. The Giardini is a very special place because it was a public space during Napoleon. In 85, the Biennale take it and privatize. That Venice lost a public space to become a private space of the Biennale, where people want to go there, they need to pay and that. And these days is what is happening. But I need to explain more because if not, it's not clear. This center has been using stickers, it's been using murals, it's took all the different kind of ways. For example, this was Korea. I asked 8 translators, and each one gave me a different translation. It was continuation in Buenos Aires. I used part of this public furniture. They use normally this furniture to use advertising or to political advertisements or commercial advertisements. And I have to, like, during the time I was doing an exhibition to use as an intervention during 3 months between the advertising and the political advertisement and the commercial advertisement. This is another series of work connected to a translation series. I think at that event, it was obviously a war reaction to that. But also it was a political reaction in the States, in Washington, fear, it was very, very present on the politics. I will not say there are other countries too, but my feeling and how I perceive it was in reaction to that. Then inside this event that happened at the border between Tijuana and Santiago for several years. I think it's been five insights, events like Documenta or like Venezuela, but concentrate in the context of Tijuana, San Diego, the two sides. Then I decided they invite me to do a project of public space, and I decided to use the television. 30 minutes project that, in a way, addressed to the fear of the south to the north and the north to the south, the two sides of the border. Very different fear. I think through interviews, filming in the border, taking part of quotations from different people, analyzing the border, independent Hollywood films, I did these 30 minutes that in a way, the particularity is the need to be showing on TV. Tijuana, San Diego TV, but Washington and Mexico City, the capital, that's the one that moved the strings for decisions that happen at the border. Working there, I start to think what happened in South Spain and North Africa is similar. I go back and then introduce in Granada and show there another project is called, on translation, Miedo Khawf, is fear in Arab. And these works, the previous and this one, they are English and Spanish, in the one in Tijuana, San Diego, and this is Spanish-Arab with a similar structure, but obviously the structure is the division here is water. In Mexico you have like a fence, but it's not the fence of Trump, but still a fence. And I hope the fence of Trump never happened. But on the water is a kind of a natural border. That project involved similar sources of material, interviews, documentaries, different trips to shoot. I perceive the project in between Tarifa and Tanger is more complex because add religion. Islam is an element that is not in Tijuana, San Diego, but it's very present in the border between south of Europe and north of Africa. If somebody's interested, maybe I show one of them next Tuesday. The project Construction of Fear move on with different devices to presenting. For example, I investigated how the concept of fear, panic, terror are present on the media in the United States. And that it was 3 months before I showed that in New York, all the headlines, you see that it's an amount of headlines, they use these three concepts. And this increased very much after the September 11th. I did another in Arab countries, Jordania, and I show in Morocco, in the triennial, the Okui presented in Paris. And also his companion piece is a series of silk screens about how the industry of fear, because it becomes an industry where our books are produced with a lot of tabloids, of course, good books. I mean, Zygmunt Bauman's book on fear is very interesting, but close to that, it was more opportunistic books, but present in a way that it starts to be what many things happen as an event, maybe sell. And I would say that this construction of fear bring me to Sao Paulo again, and I start to develop several series of photographs, photographing fences of the houses, how areas are protected by surveillance, by control, I think the industries of control and security and surveillance in Sao Paulo is one of the biggest and rich industries. To use some of these industries, a lot of people, they come from Colombia, and military from Colombia or Israel. I think it was people, they move and they're part of this industry. But this is in Brazil. I think it happened in other parts of the world. Probably it's here in Philippines too, where people start to have fear, increasing to increase security. And of course, you never know. It's like a circle. You don't know when it starts and finish. Anyway, that exploration brings me to Alphaville, a close community. In Spanish, it's not exactly the word, because really like a space where it's a town inside of a city, and it's protected where middle class, upper middle class live. Well, why Alphaville? What this name? I say, well, Alpha is Latin and Ville is French. It will sell. The Alphaville, a dream, a hero, the triumph, is parallel a little bit of the slogan of the construction of Brasilia. The idea of dream, the idea to construct utopia. And in a way, I start to see that in relationship with the Alphaville of Godard. That is another kind of, more than utopia, dystopia. I like that always related to other films similar to the man of Godard, like a Stalker from Tarkovsky, or Areté or Chris Marker. Films that explore zones ambiguous of dystopia where you don't know exactly what happened, future, but how is the future will be. Anyway, let me caution, American Private Eye arrives in Alphaville. This is related to the film, and I start to see the Alphaville Eotros is a project that explores a relation of private space and public space, all around the developments, urban developments. Alphaville Eotros is concerned with a reality and metaphor for different interpretation and needs of ownership, housing, architectural protection, walls, control, and security systems. Interpretation and translation of the public space is in the origin of the project. This project takes in consideration texts of Teresa Caldeira in Brazil. She's been writing and exploring very much about this phenomena, and Maristela Svamp in Argentina. Of film Alphaville, the film Alphaville and the Conjunto Fechado Alphaville are projects. The one are the physical project of living in Alphaville, and the film, one is a fiction, the film, and the other is an economical project. See how Alphaville is totally impossible to go there. We crossing the other day certain kind of areas in Manila, and they say, well, this is kind of condominium, but nothing to do. I mean, here you go by the car and you cross. Here it's totally fences. I mean, you need to identify by finger, you need to go. It's really like much worse than an airport, much worse than going to the American embassy in any part of the world. Anyway, for me the interest was like the idea of Alphaville, it was to create a space to live in freedom, to live in green, to live ecological. Is the contrary. It's a place that you are under control, under paranoia, and you needed to live under surveillance by closed circuits and security cameras and that. I think the way how security is in a place like that make them thinking that this is similar to what happened in the Middle Age, where cities they start to wall around and they're protected, because If you see by Google Earth, Alphaville now is totally walled by a series of protection that in a way is the closer you see as a prisoner. The decision for all these people is to live there. Anyway, the project, it was an installation, and this was the diagram. Then it has the ambience of a showroom, of a kind of real estate showroom, where the space and the floor it was green, where they have the walls with wallpaper by, in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, the Sunday's newspaper, they have supplements about buying and selling houses, and that property is very strong. The flags is the flags that the weekends are showing to people to how to buy properties, and are slogans that I feel are part of the way of consumer society and advertising function. And in that room, it has a kind of fence and the Google Earth of Alphaville, and in one stream, the film that I created. I think I need to say that this showroom, it was created to show the film.
I just have a question about the signage that you had about perception requires. Yeah, was that a post? Because when I saw that, what reminded me of was the not post 9/11 signages. See something, say something. Was it similar? Or was that your translation? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that it was part of the strategy. This was in '95. The sentence. But the thing, what you say, the software was very present, because I think it was a kind of advertisement, a public announcement to be protect and to, in a way, create fear. Because to say if you are, be careful, then something could happen, and to be aware. I think it's the warning perception requiring involvement. This is general about the perception of understanding image, understanding art, to be aware of what we read, what we see. You know, we live in a time that everything is so fast, and you know, that I think it's important to give some time to think about, you know. And as I say, I start from myself. I mean, to think, I think, was probably trying to be slow and to do as much as thinking as possible, sometimes collaborate with other people to really live in a time where it seems like everything is accelerated.
If you were to continue your series on those spaces,
yes.
Like the wardrobe, the bank.
The bank.
Yeah, if you were to do it today, because I was thinking, what was the last space you investigated? You have the file room, you have the bank, you have the
well, the ones I show, media architecture installation is part of creative work. It's others, home where it's home, a lot of work that really with the relation of media and architecture.
Yes, so I want to know.
The file room is part of that too, because it's a room of archives.
What would be, in terms of social media, the speed of communication, what would be an interesting space that you would explore? What would be an interesting thing that you would focus?
I think one project brings another. You know, I think the file room, it was the origin after working between the frames, the system of art, and I think that, as I say, the case of the Spanish television, I think when you start a project by curiosity of something new or something that already you explore, you are developing in a way that it brings you another kind of project, a continuity. I think it's a territory that I am aware, because many people, they say, oh, I read that about you on Facebook. Say, how come? I don't have. Like that, this is non-stoppable. But I'm not so much interested on that.
Virtual doesn't interest you.
But I use the internet for projects because I think I would use when I have a specific project for. For me, every project, it requires a specific medium. And at that time, I don't found a need to use Instagram or to use Facebook. I think the first time I used the internet, it was 1994. It was pretty difficult to work with that. I need to work with the University in Illinois and that. I think it's, I don't know, as I said before, and I will develop more on Tuesday, it's very much on the process of working where I decide the medium.
If you were to update the boardroom project?
The boardroom project?
Yes.
I don't know.
Not really. Would you consider including?
Of course, the leaders will be different. You know, like some people they say, what about between the frames? You think between the frame system of art, if you do it now, of course, if I do it now, it would be the auctions, the biennials, and the fairs. And these are three elements in the 80s existing, but they were not so important. Now it seems like everything is filtered by some of these revised all the time. I think it's linked to a period of time. It's time specific. It was the 80s between the frame and the boardroom. As I say, I was in Boston, and this is what happened in New England, and it happened in Canada. If I was doing this project in Paris, maybe it was totally different. Or here.
You mentioned that you are interested also in works in sociology and anthropology. Can you cite some works in the social sciences? Can you cite which books, which works in the social sciences?
In the protected space?
Yeah, that great influence in your work.
Well, yeah, I think in the beginning we showed this film with Nina Whitey. She's the curator of the show I did at Reina Sofia. And she organized the show. We decided we don't want to do chronologically or anthologically. We decided on 9 cosmologies. I try to remember: microspace, media landscape, the construction of fear, the observation series, the series of a spectacle, where include the 9, the system of art, and each one it has works outside and inside the public space. And I tried to explain that works in the 70s, they could be connected to works of the 90s. That all is a continuity. And our territories, every of these areas, this cosmology, are territories that was interested and I'm still interested. And that I'm not somebody that interested in the style of the work. I'm interested in the discourse. I think if somebody don't recognize my work, that is a question of style. I mean, you go to a house of a collector, and the collector will be very happy if you say, this is so and so and so and so. Recognize the signature. It's not that I am against, but I'm not caring about the style. I think I'm more interested that people recognize the work by the content. And that the show of the 9 cosmologies pointed out these 9 territories where some of the works I show, they are, and some are public space, and some are protected. Galleries, museums, the exhibition, Exposición, that after it was showing in New York, all the gallery was empty with devices of the series of photographs empty, the series of paintings empty, the series of billboard empty, the series of slide projection empty, the film projection empty, that it was an exhibition of blank devices. But it was an exhibition. It was about what it means to exhibit work and what the medium function. Again, explaining to that is very different than to see the work.